Josh, and this is What's for Dinner, Dad. Today, we're going to make a quintessential autumn soup, roasted butternut squash soup. I've actually got some simmering here right behind me. And I'm going to show you how we got to that point, and then I'll show you how to finish it up. It is like a whole entire bowl of autumn goodness and warmth and comfort. I hope you enjoy.
A quick disclaimer, I'm making a double batch in the video, but the amounts I'll tell you will be for a single batch. To start off, you'll need a 3 to 5 pound butternut squash. Turn it on its side and trim off the stem end and then the bottom end. While you do this, be very careful because the squash can be a little sticky and sometimes it's hard to get the knife through, even with a sharp knife, so you might want to just rock it back and forth like I'm doing. Cut it in half, and then cut the neck and the bowl in half themselves. The bowl is this bottom end where the seeds are. To peel, I wouldn't recommend using a vegetable peeler. I would simply cut the skin off, just like this. The time you save isn't worth the little bit of squash flesh that you're going to save. Before you trim the peel off of the bowl, you're going to want to scrape out the seeds because it's a little more stable that way. Using a regular spoon, just work it around inside the bowl until you've removed all of the pulp and seeds. If there's any extras in there, scrape those out. Then, just like you did with the neck, trim the skin off. Now, to cut the squash into chunks, lay it on the flat side and work your knife through in 4 or 5 slices. Rotate 90 degrees and cut 4 more slices the other way. Place your chunks of squash in a large bowl. Then drizzle a 1/4 cup of olive oil over it, about half a tablespoon of salt, half a tablespoon of turmeric plus half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Then mix together. After you've mixed it all, pour it out onto a baking sheet lined with heavy-duty aluminum foil and set aside. You'll want to make sure that the squash is in one single layer. Now for your other vegetables. You're going to want to peel 1 carrot and 1 or maybe 2 parsnips depending on their size. Parsnips are a beautiful root vegetable with a sweetness and starchiness that work really well and pair nicely with the butternut squash. To cut your butternut squash, first cut the tip off, then cut the stem off, then split it in half, and then split the larger end in half and cut 4 or 5 slices, trying to be as uniform as possible. Then with the shorter end, don't split it, just cut it into regular slices like that. Set aside and then repeat the same step with your carrot. Cut off the stem, then the tip, split it in half. On the smaller end, don't split it a second time, and just cut it into 5 slices. On the larger end, split it in half and cut into 4 or 5 slices. Now it's time for your Granny Smith apple. Cut it in half, and then cut it in quarters. And then standing it up, I like to slice the inside core out just like this, and then cut these into half-sized chunks. Repeat this step. I actually figured this out while I was cutting apple slices for my kids when they were small. And now the onion. We're not doing much with this, just cut the stem and the tip off, cut it in half, peel the skin off, and then quarter it. Season these vegetables the same way you did the butternut squash. Vegetable oil, salt, turmeric, and cinnamon. Mix it around until it's all covered, and then spread it out on another baking tray covered with heavy-duty aluminum foil. Get everything in a single layer. Into a 400-degree convection oven will go your butternut squash and your vegetables, For about 20 minutes, you might want to keep the butternut squash in there for maybe 5 minutes longer, depends on how brown it is. Now for your aromatics. This knob of ginger is about 4 inches long, and I'm going to cut it into a large dice. And then 4 cloves of garlic, and roughly chop some parsley. Once your oven is done, take your vegetables out. They should look like this. A little bit of browning, nice and soft. In a heavy bottom pan, such as a Dutch oven, heat a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil and sweat your garlic and ginger for a couple of minutes, then add your parsley. Stir it around to coat everything in the oil. I transferred my vegetables and butternut squash to a bowl to make it easier to pour them into my Dutch oven. I'll do the vegetables first, and then the butternut squash. Give everything a stir to mix it all together. And to that, you'll add about 3 cups of vegetable stock. You can also use chicken stock. And give it a bit of a stir. Season with some salt, freshly ground black pepper, and freshly grated nutmeg. Cover and let it simmer over low heat for about 20 to 30 minutes. Now to blend your soup. You can either use an immersion blender like I am, or carefully and probably in batches, ladle your soup into a traditional blender. Continue blending until you have a nice thick puree. Mine is a little bit thicker than I wanted, so I'm going to add a cup of water. Now this is a cup to my larger double batch. You should probably add a little less if you're making a single batch. You kind of have to eyeball it. But stir it all together and let it come to a simmer.
And that'll do it for our episode on butternut squash soup. Like I said, it's a quintessential fall meal. I really hope you enjoy it. Let's take a bite. Myself a little toasted crostini here. Oh man, it's so comforting. There's so much richness from all the vegetables. The cinnamon and the turmeric really just it's like a warm blanket around you. Oh, this is so good. Enjoy. I'm Josh. This is What's for Dinner, Dad.
If you found this episode helpful, saw something useful, or want to try a recipe, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow on social media for updates and to ask questions. I'm Josh, and this is What's for Dinner, Dad.